Happy Tuesday, everybody. My name is Elizabeth, and I have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, prolonged depressive disorder, which I prefer to call the Eeyore syndrome because it makes more sense, ADHD, and codependency. So quite a variety of fun goes on in my brain on a daily basis. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the ADHD because honestly, getting my ADHD diagnosis at the age of 42 was one of the more enlightening days of my life, and it was a day where everything made sense. I had always grown up knowing, okay, anxiety, depression, fine, but I always thought there was something else going on, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And then I got the ADHD diagnosis, and suddenly it was like, oh, okay, this all makes sense now. Now I get it. The only reason I went to get tested for ADHD is I was going through one of the breakups with my ex-narcissist, and I was also struggling at work with some things, and was sitting there one day, and two of my senior girls, remember I'm a school counselor and a licensed mental health counselor, the two of them were talking about their ADHD diagnosis, and they were talking about their signs and their symptoms of ADHD. And I literally was sitting there going, yep, yep, yep. And finally I looked at them and I was like, wow, you guys, I need to go get checked. So I spoke to my therapist and went to the psychiatrist. Within probably 15 minutes of sitting down with him, he looked at me and said, have you ever heard of Ritalin? I was like, I have, actually. And that began my ADHD journey. And that began the time where everything started to fall into place for why I am the way I am. Because I always wondered, because there was always things that were off. I mean, ADHD is not all doom and gloom. There's a lot with ADHD. Like, first of all, just the term neurodivergent, maybe because I liked the Divergent series back in the day, but I would rather be neurodivergent than neurotypical. When it comes to people with ADHD and people that are neurodivergent, they have a tendency to be really good in emergencies. We have a tendency to be creative. We have a tendency to be extremely empathetic, probably too empathetic, let's be honest. We really want to make the people around us happy, which unfortunately often causes us to be people pleasers. But there's just a deep love of everyone around us and of the things that we're passionate about. And so it's not all bad. I actually pulled some research today about some of the kind of weirder signs of ADHD because, again, once I got the diagnosis, and started looking into it, things made a lot of sense. For example, if I have to eat off of a large fork or a large spoon, I hate it. Give me I want a little baby spoon, a little baby fork. That's all I want. Certain clothes, I prefer a V-neck. I don't like clothes up around my neck. It's just like a texture, a touch thing. I don't like it. Certain fabrics, can't wear them. There's things like forgetting things, like I just did. Even like losing keys, losing your cell phone, losing your mind, but losing your wallet. It doesn't matter. My big thing that I have a tendency to lose is I'll forget my cell phone. I know for other people it's car keys, it's that kind of stuff. But there's always something like I'll be leaving the house and I have to stop myself and be like, stop, do you have everything? And remind myself to go back and pick things up. There's days where I have to catch myself because I'm feeling too many feelings about trying to help other people. Again, I'm making these videos to try to help people, but at the same time, it's also a way for me to help myself. Some other kind of weird things about ADHD that make a ton of sense to me, asking yourself, why did I walk into this room? And then they say, well, go back to your original spot, and then you'll remember. No, you don't. I am the clumsiest person. I always have bruises on my arms or on my legs because I run into walls, doorways, doors. I get my if I have a shirt and I'm in my desk at work and I'm sitting on my chair, I'll get my shirt caught in the armrest. I have a tendency at work to go to my coworkers and be like, hey, if I say tomorrow, why do I have a bruise on my arm? It's because I ran into this door. And really, it's just if I'm not in the moment, if I'm not focused on what I'm doing, I'm going to bump into stuff because my mind is in 1,001 places all at the same time. And it's exhausting. But I do have a tendency, I had a bruise here, it might be gone now. I've had some bruises, there's always bruises. Mystery bruises. Okay, if you have mystery bruises, could be ADHD. I know mine were. I've been given crap by people my entire life for talking too fast. I always thought it was just a family trait. I always thought it was because I lived from the Midwest. And I used to joke with people, and I realize now it's true. It's not that I talk too fast. It's the world thinks too slow. And my brain is always 18 miles ahead. And so I do talk very fast. It's a process for me when I sit down to create a video to remind myself to slow down. It helped that I was a teacher for 13 years because that was always like a constant, okay, slow down enough so they can understand. Students were better, adults struggled more. But yeah, I always thought it was just because I talked fast, but oh no, it's because I have ADHD. And let's see some other things. A lot of times, like in women, it's often misdiagnosed. We don't show ADHD the same as males do. In fact, this article is from chadd.org, chadd.org, and it talks about how we have a tendency to not present the same way. We present more inattentive, and boys are more kind of that hyperactive, impulsive type of a thing. So for us, it's more along the lines of we fail to give close attention to details. We'll make careless mistakes when we're not hyperfixating because we're super into it. We don't appear that we're listening, but we are. And I don't know about you, but anybody else with ADHD out there, do you have like scenarios running through your head all the time? Do you have stories running through your head all the time? I daydream constantly. Anybody else that practices what they're going to say to people before they talk? I thought everybody did that. Apparently not. That's not what everybody needs to do. But I'm constantly processing and thinking, okay, how am I going to have this conversation? How am I going to have this conversation? Way before it ever even happens, or might not ever happen. But I'm constantly thinking, okay, how am I going to have it to make sure that I make sense? I realize now that the ADHD diagnosis made it make sense that I've struggled in interviews for all my adult life because I get thinking too fast and I have to slow myself down to answer their question. And I get caught up in it and I'm a million miles ahead. I have to stop. I have to respond. I have to think it through. And I do struggle with that. And I always walked out of interviews going like, why can't I just answer the questions that they want the way they want them answered? I don't understand how this doesn't make sense. Obviously the fidgeting, I give out fidgets to students at work. I give out fidgets to adults at work. I have probably 7 fidgets that I carry with me, all the silent kind because it's better that way. But just constantly ADHD, we have a tendency we make friends, but we struggle with relationships. And that comes to rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which I'll talk about in a few minutes because that's the fun part of ADHD. Sometimes, especially women with ADHD, have a tendency to self-harm or do things that require unhealthy self-discipline, eating disorders, that kind of thing. I sometimes wonder, do I have anxiety? Do I have prolonged depressive disorder? Do I have ADHD? Or is it literally just ADHD and those other things are just part of it? So that's something that I'm still trying to figure out in my life and to explore. Also in girls or women, again, this article from Chadd says that there's co-occurring depression and anxiety. In a lot of women, we have difficult romantic relationships that lead to intimate partner violence, that lead us to narcissists, that lead us with our empathetic side to try to help people, and they take advantage of it. A lot of mental abuse, that kind of thing. We have trouble maintaining friendships. We have at least one space in our life that is in disarray, such as a messy house, a messy bedroom. Anybody that's ever been in my office, I literally call it the ADHD office. There's a lot going on in my office, and there's a lot of stuff. And when it gets to the point that I can't function in my office, I know I need to clean it. And then I clean it and I can't find anything. So that's a whole nother set of fun that I look forward to. But if, when I talk to students coming in and they'll be like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, well, what does your desk look like? It's either going to be extremely clean or extremely messy. And if they're like, no, it looks like yours. I'm like, well, then we need to work through some coping skills. Because it's not even about the diagnosis. The diagnosis helped me make sense of things. But it's also about making sure I'm really working the coping skills I need to do so I can function and I can be successful in both my personal life and in my professional life. One of my bosses has finally started telling me, write this down anytime she has to give me a list of things to do. Because she's told me, and I'll say it too, I'll be like, oh no, I got it. I know what you need me to do. And then I don't got it. And then I forget. and I'll do part of it and I won't do all of it. And then she's like, what about this? And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that part. Write it down. So anybody who even thinks they might have ADHD, writing it down is your best friend. I often write it on my hand because I really hope that I don't lose that list. Because if I do, that's a whole nother set of issues. Other things about kind of ADHD that throws people off. This one is from Attitude. It's ADDITUDE. It's a magazine about ADD. And it talks about how you're not, and this is me. This is why I think it was overlooked for a long time. I'm not hyperactive. I was not impulsive. I was always that good girl. I was always the good kid because of my codependency, because of my upbringing with the alcoholic father, the codependency that runs in my family, or not runs in my family, that has been developed in my family. Because again, codependents are not born. We are created. But it wasn't that. It was, I literally just have no motivation. I have paralysis. It's called ADHD paralysis. And I will sit and know, and I can sit right here and be like, okay, I have to do this task. And then it doesn't get done. And then I start telling myself how terrible I am, that I'm stupid, that I can't do it, why am I such a failure? All those pieces come through. And I have to remind myself, ADHD paralysis, what coping skills do I need to implement? I will try to make sure, like even with the videos, hey, I'm going to put a video out tomorrow. I'll put it up on my social media because that pushes me to make sure I put it out because I don't want to lie to anybody. I will, it's just sometimes having a body double, having somebody in the room working on something completely different. But if they're working on it, I'll work on it. It's tough. And I hate the paralysis. It makes me feel like such a failure sometimes. But that's how my brain works. So I'm still in the process of learning how to work with it better while I learn how to cope with everything that's gone on in my life, everything that's happened in the last 5 years. So there's just a lot. But it's worth it. And I'm, slowly getting, there are still days that I'm like, nope, never going to get that task done. Not going to happen. I know this week is very busy with it being the end of the school year. And last night I was like, okay, I'm going to do some yard work. I have to edge the driveway and the sidewalks. And I started, and then the battery died. And I went to charge it up. Where most people could be like, okay, well, I'll wait till tomorrow, and I'll finish it tomorrow, or I'll finish it another day, whatever. I was like, nope, I have to finish it tonight. I don't care if it's dark out. If I don't finish it tonight, it's not going to get done. So I charged it up enough so I could finish. And then swept and did all the things I needed to do with it, because I knew I wouldn't do it if I didn't finish it last night. I had that motivation going. I have to do the work when the motivation's there. That's a big part of ADHD. When you get that motivation, you do it. I always wonder, I honestly think my dad had ADHD because when I was a kid, he would take the kitchen table, the glass out of the kitchen table at like 11 o'clock at night and start cleaning all the crumbs out of the, the edges of it. And we were always like, what are you doing? That's when the motivation struck. That's when he had to work on it. And I get that now. It might be, and with people with ADHD, we have a tendency to work better later in the day. We are not morning people. Not at all. Even when work requires it. Okay. But I prefer to work in the evenings, late afternoons. That's when my brain is clearest. So, you do what you can to get the work done. But definitely not a morning person for sure. And sleep issues, that's part of ADHD as well. Tough time falling asleep, tough time staying asleep. Mind is always just racing. It's racing so fast that I had a thought's gone. So we're just going to move on and see if it comes back. So other things that you look at for ADHD, we get real annoyed with people telling us what to do. Like we crave structure, but we hate structure. And trust me, I crave structure, but I hate it. And especially now after coming out of that 5-year narcissistic abusive relationship, if I start doing something my way and somebody tells me, why don't you do it this way? I'm instantly in a rage. Don't tell me how to do things. Let me do things my way. I've been told for 5 years that everything I did was wrong. I want to do it my way. That's also part of depression because some people think that with depression, it's only you're sad. Oh, no. You get very irritable. That's a big part of it. It's also part of anxiety. It's part of the ADHD. Like, I just don't like when people tell me that the way I'm doing things is wrong or to do it their way, especially now at this point in my life. But I'm working really hard to communicate that with people so they understand why I'm getting upset and not just the fact I'm getting upset. So it's just a struggle every day to make sure that I'm communicating with the people around me, the people I love, the people I care about, so they understand why I'm behaving or why I'm doing the things that I do. Some other fun stuff with ADHD, stimming. I sing little songs. I have one little song that I've sung to myself for 30 years. It's just a little tune that I will sing to myself. If I'm eating really good food, I have a tendency to kind of hum and dance. Making noises. A lot of times we'll repeat noises. With ADHD, we get stuck in the same songs and we kind of hyperfixate on them. Anything that we enjoy, anything that we're focused on, we will hyperfixate to the point that some people with ADHD forget to eat, forget to drink water, forget to, which I'm guilty of, forget to do just your basic human functions. You know, the one big thing that I always wondered about, like I could literally drink 2 Red Bulls and go to sleep like that. And I just never understood why. Well, I have ADHD. The way my brain works, caffeine doesn't get me wired. Caffeine gives me dopamine. And when you have ADHD, you have a lack of dopamine. And we crave dopamine, which is why we have a tendency to do impulsive behaviors that can get you into trouble. Why we overspend sometimes. Why we have a tendency to have addiction issues. Because we need that dopamine. We crave it. There's just, we have to have it to feel okay. And so caffeine is something that gives us dopamine. I can go and drink coffee at 11 o'clock at night and go to bed because it actually calms me down. And I've done that in the past where if I'm coming home from something later, stop and get a coffee because I need to go to sleep. So we have the opposite reaction to a lot of things that neurotypical people do, and I mean, it's great that I can drink a, Red Bull or 2 or 3 and not, the only reason I know I have too much is because my eye starts twitching real bad. But other than that, we're great. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Pulled some research on that too from the Cleveland Clinic. RSD. I'm just going to call it that for short because it's easier. RSD is very real. Okay. With rejection sensitivity dysphoria, it's not just being afraid people don't like you, or it's not just, having an issue. It's every little thing makes you think everybody hates you. So if, things like it says even here, if the TV volume control is stuck at a painfully high level, it causes emotional dysregulation. And with rejection sensitivity, also causes emotional dysregulation. We have a tendency to feel severe anxiety and negative emotions while we anticipate a rejection. It hasn't even happened yet. It might happen. So we're instantly like, nope, they hate us, or nope, this is negative, it's terrible. We have trouble seeing non-positive reactions, things that are just neutral or very vague, as anything but rejection. We take our rejection very seriously. We overreact to the feelings of rejection. It leads to the behavior that reflects negative emotions, anger, rage, sadness, anxiety, all those things. Where one person can go out and somebody can say something to them and they're like, whatever, and they move on with their day. With rejection sensitivity dysphoria, you're stuck and you perseverate on it and you can't escape it until you catch yourself with it. We often feel very embarrassed and very self-conscious. Again, things that I've done my whole life that now make sense. We show signs of low self-esteem. Yes. We have trouble containing emotions when we feel rejected. And this is for teenagers, for children, for adults. It could be angers, rage. We cry, we rage cry, whatever. Instead of losing control of your emotions outwardly, sometimes you'll turn them inwardly. And that's where we just get very depressed. We don't want to bother anybody. We don't want to let them know that they hurt us. So we just turn it inside and crumble. And again, RSD, we have a tendency to be people pleasers. We become very focused on avoiding the disapproval of others, which when you have ADHD and codependency is the perfect storm for bringing people into your life like narcissists who will destroy you. And it sucks. And, it's one of those things that all you can do is try to learn from it. I mean, RSD is out in the pop culture. Remember, I mentioned in a previous video, I'm a professional wrestling fan. And on AEW, MJF had a whole promo where he talked about the fact he has ADHD and he has RSD. And it hit me, and I'm sure other people too, because it was such a real promo about something that's so real that affects a lot of us. So that actually made me feel better because I was like, oh, okay, he's got it too. Cool. famous, professional wrestler, one of the best heels in the business. But just to hear it out there for the world and not just in its own little segment on social media or just with people that have it, to see it just in your face was nice. It made me, it makes you feel a little more normal. And that's a good feeling. So there's a lot with ADHD. This is just, 20 minutes of random ADHD talk, just to kind of put it out there of the things that I've experienced and the things that I had to look at to realize that I am diagnosed ADHD, thankfully, proudly, because like I said, it's not all bad. If you look at ADHD in emergencies, people with ADHD, people that are neurodivergent, are usually the best in an emergency. We don't freeze up. We just jump right in, do what we got to do, and take care of things. However, if the clouds aren't quite right, or if I, lose a key, or if the smallest thing happens, I will melt down. But big, important situations, and I've seen a few things in my time working as a counselor, and in those moments, just compartmentalize and you do what you got to do. And it's nice to be able to do that. And to me, that is a survival skill for my job and for my career. I need that. To me, having ADHD and working with very, very bright and intelligent students helps, because a lot of them also have, even if they don't have ADHD per se, they have a lot of those executive functioning issues that ADHD skills and coping skills can help with. Like I said, write it down. I write everything down now. I have a calendar. I have my laptop calendar, on my phone. I have my hand that I write on all the time. I make lists. I live and die, like I tell people, I live and die by the Post-it note. If you make a Post-it, that's important. I got to do this. Another thing that I do is I set timers for myself. I set alarms all the time now. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do this. Because I will forget to do this and this and this. Timers are wonderful. And with technology now, it's very easy to set timers throughout your day if you need to. I've learned to chunk my work, where I'll be like, okay, so for 30 minutes, I'm going to do this task. And I'll set an alarm sometimes just so I know, okay, in 30 minutes, you got to focus. And then the alarm goes off. And it's like I tell my students, and then you take set a timer for a 10-minute break, then get into the next thing. And if you hyperfixate and you get that first project done and you're still working on it a little bit longer, that's okay. But it's because we get so easily distracted and, the old squirrel, that we don't want to do tasks that we don't prefer to do. And unfortunately in life, we have to do that. And so we have to learn how to do that. So those are the big things. I write everything down. I keep a calendar. I keep alarms. I chunk things. I am learning to give myself grace. And that is the biggest thing that someone with ADHD can do for themselves. It's okay. You're going to have paralysis sometimes, most likely. You're going to forget something. You're going to lose something. You're going to bump into a wall and have mystery bruises. It's okay. Nothing wrong with you. You're just neurodivergent. And there's a lot of real famous neurodivergent people out there. You can literally Google it and see all the famous people that have ADHD or have autism, because they're all part of that neurodivergent family. We're just who we are. So just a little bit on ADHD tonight. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, especially if you lasted this long. If you didn't like it, feel free to thumbs down it and hit the subscribe button. Hey, I'll take what I can get. But hope it's provided a little information, maybe some coping skills. Kind of wanted to lighten it up after the last video where I went into, how I became who I am. So have a great night and take care of yourselves, guys. You deserve it.